Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet Malhotra, and you're, of course, watching NewsX right here. During conflict and war, more often than not, the voices of the people of the affected region are drowned. In our endeavor to bring to you voices from Ukraine, we present an exclusive interview with Oleksandr Zaslavskyi, a resident of Kyiv, Ukraine, who spoke to my colleague Paridhi Bhanot. This interview will help you understand better what the situation inside Ukraine is and what countries such as ours can do to help. Listen in.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX. I'm Paridhi Bhanot. Now, reports coming in for the last couple of weeks suggest a gross amassment of troops on the Ukrainian border by the Russian forces. Now, while Ukraine's allies in the NATO as well as the European Union and other nations like France have extended their support, there is one lingering question on my mind and probably on yours too if you're watching this. What is happening inside Ukraine? So what are the people facing? What is the psychological and domestic economic impact? And is there military presence in cities beyond just the border areas? Now, to answer all of this, we have with us Oleksandr Zaslavskyi. Oleksandr is currently living in Kiev, which is the capital city of Ukraine that I have probably not pronounced correctly. But Oleksandr, thank you so much, firstly, for being with us on NewsX, and welcome.
Hi to everyone, and thank you for this opportunity.
So, Oleksandr, let me dive right into it. What exactly has triggered Russia to position troops at this point in time at the border?
Well, right now, I should probably remind that since 2014, in 2014, Russia invaded and occupied Crimea, which is the territory of Ukraine, occupied some territories of Donetsk and Luhansk territories, and created enclaves. So we're in a state of some war since 2014. And what actually happened right now is the concentration of troops in the east of Ukraine, in Crimea, which Russian Federation turned in a military base actually, and in Belarus on the northern border of Ukraine. So right now, it seems to me that Russia believes that if it does not return Ukraine to its orbit of influence right now, forced to make some concessions, it will not be able to do so in the future except as via full-scale war and full-scale occupation of all the territory of Ukraine. After all, the policies being implemented in Ukraine during past 8 years, they make Ukraine more European, if I can say it. Our institutions become more democratic, and the governance system evolves completely opposite to Russia's direction. It means that Putin will lose the opportunity to revive the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And in our Ukrainian opinion, this is exactly what he is trying to do. Probably remember how several years ago he said that the collapse of Soviet Union was the biggest geopolitical tragedy of the 20th century. So this can be the part of the answer. Probably there are also several reasons. One of them is the sanctions imposed by European Union and United States because of the Russian armed aggression in the east of Ukraine in 2014. So until the conflict is settled down, sanctions will be enforced. Minsk peaceful agreements are not yet implemented, meaning that sanctions will affect Russian economy more and more. Yeah. So we believe Russia wants to force Ukraine to implement the Minsk agreement in the version that Moscow sees these agreements as soon as possible to get rid of sanctions. And what is this vision? So first of all, these elections in the uncontrolled territories of Donetsk and Luhansk regions and special constitutional status of uncontrolled territories. And then everything else, including the return of control over the border between Russia and Ukraine. But imagine what can be the elections under the barrels of machine guns. And after the 8 years of occupation in Ukraine, we reasonably believe that if it happens, these territories will be used by Moscow as a trigger or as a constant pressure to make constant pressure on Kyiv, meaning that we will lose a part, if not all, our sovereignty.
Yes. Oleksandr, very well put. You've explained to us what the situation is like, why, what Russia's interests in Ukraine are. Let's talk about Ukraine a little bit. Why is it important for Ukraine to join hands with the NATO or the European Union?
Again, in 2014, Russia invaded and annexed Crimea. It invaded the eastern Ukraine, supported illegal armed formation with Russian money, weapons, and soldiers in Donetsk and Luhansk regions. So since 2014, Russia continues to support this illegal armed formation with money, weapons, and soldiers. We, Ukrainians, want guarantees of security. The threat is obviously coming from Russia, meaning we want to feel secure from Russia, period. And if we're talking about the Euro-Atlantic integration and why to become part of European Union, I should also remind that you probably know about the Revolution of Dignity, which happened in 2013 and 2014. This actually, the trigger why the revolution burst out, it started because the previous authoritarian president Yanukovych decided not to sign association agreement with the European Union, despite the fact that for several years he claimed that we will sign it. And the whole Ukrainian society expected this. So this actually decision led to mass protests and human losses. So European choice has strong symbolic and historical meaning. And moreover, of course, integration to the European Union and NATO was enshrined in the constitution of Ukraine in 2018. And again, actually, it is Russia who is pushing Ukraine towards EU and NATO by claiming several times by Putin and other Russian officials that they don't consider Ukraine as a sovereign state. They consider Ukrainians as part of Russian people and Ukraine as part of Russian world, which is completely not true. We are absolutely different people.
Yeah, the sovereign nation. Oleksandr, as far as the people of Ukraine are concerned, what do they want? And what is the perception, in fact, in Ukraine like of Russia?
Again, in Ukraine, since 2014, we're kind of accustomed to threat of a full-scale aggression and the invasion of Russian Federation. I don't feel fear in Ukrainian society. Ukrainian officials, the army, citizens are ready to resist in case of Russian invasion. Parliament of Ukraine develops or has an initiative to develop new format of work, actually remote work, in case of to be more flexible in case of full-scale invasion. And according to public opinion polls, 33% of citizens of Ukraine are ready to join armed resistance in case of invasion, and 20% are ready to resist in a non-military way. meaning protests, boycotts, strikes, civil disobedience. Again, Ukrainian people already gone far too from Russians. We are not the same people. We are different. We will not tolerate when our rights are oppressed and violated.
That's fair. Alexander, as far as, the psychological impact is concerned, I'm sure, you've seen this for some time now. You were telling me that you've been associated with the organization that you're working for since 2009 now. So you witnessed what happened in 2014 very closely. You were telling me that your parents were in fact in Crimea. I'm sure that ought to have some sort of a psychological impact. On you, but also, on other people, on younger kids, on teenagers that are experiencing this for the first time. What is the psychological impact like, Alexander?
It is probably a really hard question. So the shock was in 2014.
Yeah.
The vast majority of population of Ukraine probably could not believe Russia, who claimed before this that Russia and Ukraine are friends forever, something like this. So they realized that Russia is not friend. Russia is aggressor. Again, it's not NATO invaded Ukraine or some Russian territories. Russia did it, invaded and occupied territories, eastern part of Ukraine. Now we see that Russia is aggressor, and we, to some extent, get used to this threat, and I don't feel it anymore, if I can say it. It was shock in 2014. We could not believe that in 21st century, country claimed for several years that we are friends, etc. They could do this to us.
Yeah.
And now we can see that this is possible. We don't have any more illusions. We know that this is possible. We know that this can happen. And as you see, according to the national polls, we are ready to resist.
Okay, before we let you go, and because we're running out of time, Alexander, quick two questions I have for you. Firstly, what is the domestic economic impact that the situation has had in Ukraine? And secondly, is there any sort of military presence in cities such as the capital where you are, other than the border areas?
So first of all, I should say that probably there is also inner reasons for Russia to conduct these aggressive movements. You know that the Russian economy is stagnating. COVID-19 pandemics affected it also. The ratings of Putin are also going down. We remember what happened in 2014. His ratings were really, really low, the lowest actually since the beginning of 2000. And after the occupation of Crimea, they raised drastically. No doubts, they believe that aggressive behavior towards Ukraine and Western allies will make the same right now. And all these Russian maneuvers at the same time, and vice versa, have affected the Russian economy. As of Monday afternoon in Europe, the MOEX Russian index had dropped around 6%. And the Russian RTS index was down by 8% on the day. So you see that Russian economic situation isn't that good. But at the same time, the Ukrainian economy has not been affected in such a dramatic way. Russian maneuvers could affect Ukraine's economy by provoking a panic inside the country. But this hasn't happened. High gas prices have a bigger impact on Ukraine's economy than Russian aggressive maneuvers and statements. This would be probably the answer to the first question. And to the second, if we're talking about the presence of Ukrainian military forces inside the cities, so I don't see Ukrainian troops, tanks marching down the streets of Kyiv. But what I can say is since 2014, we got used to presence of people dressed military. So we know they're here, and probably the presence of these people in the peaceful life it makes it calms down a little bit. So we know that the military are here and they are ready to protect us.
All right. Before we let you go, one last question, Oleksandr, and because it is important to us, for us to know as a nation, what is it that we can do to help? What is it that Ukraine expects from the world?
Support, probably. What I can say here is Europe knows well what appeasement is. And I'm talking about Hitler in the second half of the 30s of the last century and what it led to. We expect support from our international allies and partners, support that will make impossible any kind of Russian aggression against Ukraine. Of course, to make this aggression impossible. Of course, each economic interests are closer to everyone now. But if we choose between economic losses and the possibility, prospect of a full-scale war in Europe with thousands, if not millions of victims, millions of refugees, I think the choice is obvious. No concessions to aggressor at any cost right now.
All right. Thank you so much, Oleksandr, for speaking with us. We wish for you and for the people of Ukraine that this does not escalate any further. And thanks so much for speaking with us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.